All right, so I just got through watching CNN's town hall, the South by Southwest town hall, and Tulsie Gabbard was on that. So, anyways, the clip I saw was just on Tulsie Gabbard. I didn't see the other ones, and I would have absolutely no interest in watching the other ones who are just these establishment criminal hitmen and others who just care about their own propensity for you know for glory and for self indulgence and so anyways there's a channel I watch. Oh God, I can't think of her name. But I've also seen others on other channels on their take, and those are the ones who are on independent social media who do these commentary coverages. And so, anyways, there is a stark difference between how those whom are the channels that I watch and subscribe to, and how the seditious, treasonous propaganda outlets like CNN and MSNBC and CBS and all those and the New York Times, how they portray those who are leaning more genuinely to actually serving and representing the people, and not looking to really muddy the water and spread seditious propaganda. So, anyways, I watched the whole thing with Tulsie, and she could have done better on certain things. For instance, when the gotcha hit question on the Syrian president, I would have come out and said, "Hey, uh, I would have come out and said, hey, every time the West and the U.S. Calls everybody else other than outside of the West dictators and despots and war criminals, uh, I would state that the U.S. has some of the greatest dictatorial war criminals: Bush and Cheney, Trump, uh, Clinton, Obama, Reagan. There's Elliot Abrams. There's John Bolton. And then we have what's his name, the Secretary of State. I forget that monster's name. The U.S. Has a massive track record. Women went into Vietnam again, just like they did with Iraq. Iraq is not a singularity of going to war going into a fake war done by the U.S. Dictators and war profiteer and criminals. So Vietnam again, gone on a false flag which got millions of which got hundreds of thousands of Americans dead by sending them to fight a war which was fake. As the same thing that happened in Iraq. As the same thing that happened in how Hawaii became part of the United States, or the Spanish-American War. The history of the United States being a dictatorial, war profiteering, mass murdering, regime change, committing the worst criminal atrocities is beyond the pale. So that's something I would have gone with, and I would have corrected it by saying it is not the people, the U.S. people, but the U.S. Political war criminals who have done all, because the ones that I mentioned are just a few out of literally hundreds and hundreds committed. Never mind the domestic crimes committed by politicians under the auspices of government. So that's one thing I would have gone with. The other is when she had to talk about her LGBT issue and what her father had started when she was a teenager, and when she was in her early 20s. I would have stated that, you know, I was a child back then. I didn't know the greater world, whereas the U.S. criminal politicians were grown-ups, and so they should have known better. That's how I would have attacked it. There's also her Medicare, when she was hit with that Medicare question. She answered great, but she also could have gone even better. She could have said, "No, I completely stand for Medicare for all. I completely stand with the fact that people should have the right, and it should be the obligation of the government to provide, because the obligation of the government is because taxes are being paid. It is not the government money; it is the people's money. So the people should get because they are entitled through the taxes. And taxes are not just about money; it's about the physical work, the mental work, the emotional work that has gone into it. Little blood, sweat, and tears. So, the other part of the question is that, what about all those people in the insurance? Well, guess what? She could have answered, well, we can divert the savings that Medicare for All would bring, and we could give a temporary coverage, monetary coverage, and we could add with education and education for all, that they could be they could be going to school to learn 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 for a different job and or vocation. So there's she could have been stronger with that. There's a massive amount of savings that Medicare for All and Education for All could have can supply, and I would have also pointed out that that the for-profit health insurance is actually been a crime that's been committed. It's actually robbed the people. And so I would have pointed that out, and I would have said, look, I would also put in a measure saying that 80%, if not more, I personally I would say 100%, but 80% of all the money that's been literally been stolen through extortion should be confiscated, and that money could be used to prop up those who would potentially lose their jobs, so that they could get the education or find another job, find other work. I would have also proposed that not just revoking the tax cuts, but going and getting back, as I've stated in my other videos, get back the money that the trillions of dollars that went to prop up the banks and financial institutions and companies like GM and Ford and others who profited off by literally stealing, robbing the taxpayers. So those are a few other things I would have talked about. But MSNBC and all those are doing a utter hit piece. And Tulsie is right. This ramping up of the new Cold War is an imminent threat, is a clear and present danger, because the level of insanity in the quote-unquote leadership of nations is ridiculous. It is stupidly ridiculous. And it is criminally negligent to allow these people, these criminals, to continue. Anyways, those are just a few of my thoughts on the matter.